Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a horror movie review and I'll be having a look at Dead Shadows. So this is a French low-budget kind of zombie sci-fi movie and it's a very strange beast indeed. The best kind of description I can give it is kind of almost a little bit like a kind of Dead Space, kind of Resident Evil style take on the kind of sort of sci-fi zombie genre. But it's a very strange film. Now, the first thing before I really tell you a little bit more about the synopsis is about how you're going to watch this film, because I actually watched it dubbed rather than subbed this time, and it kind of made a big difference in regards to how the movie was perceived. I didn't watch it subbed, but I have to say the dubbed version was terrible in regards to the actual voice acting.
You're not scared, are you?
Oh, no.
If there was a problem, I hope you'd protect me.
Yeah, I won't let you down. I'm a real freak exterminator.
Now, I don't think the acting is very good in this movie anyway, just judging by the kind of the visual and the kind of the body language of the actors and stuff like that. But I can't imagine the subbed version was a particularly masterful piece of cinema, but the actual dubbed version is really bad. The actual voice acting, the English dub at least, is very, very terrible. Worst porn acting I've ever seen. Bear that in mind. Now, the story here is basically we have this kind of young guy called Chris who witnesses his dad kill his mother after a kind of a comet passes over his house one night, and then cut to 10 years later we have this guy living a kind of like relatively solitary life. However, that kind of first intro is never really referenced again. It's really pointless having it in there. So that's the first thing. It doesn't come into play at any point in the movie. So don't understand why it's even on there. And basically what we've got here is, I guess 10 years later than the kind of the original sort of prologue, we have a kind of another comet passing over, which ends up turning pretty much the majority of Paris into kind of these tentacle-like zombie sort of creatures of varying description. Some are more kind of just straight zombies, others are kind of like semi-creatures, and there's full-on kind of bug-like creatures as well. So there's a kind of variety here in regards to the kind of the creatures on display. And it's essentially this Chris trying to kind of get to this kind of girl that his sort of sexy neighbour that he kind of wants to try and save, and ultimately teams up with this kind of psychopath that he happens to sort of run over earlier on in the movie and try and get away from all these different sort of zombie types. But the film is just all over the place. The kind of the rules that it sets out for itself are so inconsistent about, you know, who's getting infected, why people are getting infected, why they're turning into the kind of these sort of creatures, and what they're doing. There's just nothing. There's no explanation about what the hell's going on. Everyone seems to just act in different ways, and there's no explanation for it. There's a character like Chris, for example, is sort of mild spoiler here. He gets infected relatively early on, but he seems to be able to control it, but no one else seems to. And it's just a very much all over the place movie. There is a tentacle rape, a live action tentacle rape scene in this movie, so I will say that. So if you're a Japanese anime fans who are into that kind of stuff, you have a live action version of it here. So the effects are a mixed bag, and this is kind of maybe where I'll give one of the sort of positives of this film. I think some of the creature effects and some of these sort of the makeup are quite good. So it's as I said earlier on, there's quite a lot of variety in regards to some of the sort of beasts on display. We didn't never get to see a lot, but it's quite an interesting like spider woman you'll sort of see. But most of the kind of like zombie types with kind of like weird long fingers and stuff like that. But you know, it's relatively effective for the low budget that it has. And you know, some of the makeup effects are quite good. However, there are some kind of quite shoddy CGI scenes as well. So the effects are kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. But to be honest, that's really the only kind of thing I can kind of say is a positive for this movie, because it really is just such a mess. I mean, it's so poorly sort of made. The effects, for the most part, are, as I say, are mixed. The acting is very, very bad. Even if you watched it in its original French language and had it subtitled, it would still be terrible, I think. The plot and the script is just all over the place. You don't know what the hell's going on. The plot doesn't make sense. They just seem to skip over stuff. It's quite a short film as well, which I guess you could look at it as a plus. But, you know, it just kind of ends on one of these sort of semi kind of cliffhangers. And anyway, I was quite glad when it ended. I have to say, it does show some kind of flair for inventive sort of filmmaking, I suppose. But overall, I thought this was quite a boring film. Just not interesting at all, and just unfortunately a bit of a mess. So I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.